I'm Tim Barkley with Charleston Home and Design Magazine, and today we're talking with Gary Leon with Leon Vanderbilt Antiques. How you doing, Gary?
I'm fine today. Thank you, Tim.
Good. Gary, you've invited us to this beautiful South of Broad home here, and today what are we going to be taking a look at?
In this particular client's house, we were fortunate enough to have been able to place numerous really fine antiques, American and English predominantly, and some fine decorative arts. And through to the graciousness of the client, they're allowing us into the home to take a good look and see how selective purchasing can enhance a home.
Gotcha. Okay, so the homeowners turn to Leon Vanderbilt Antiques to source a number of different antiques for this home.
Well, we specialize in helping people acquire, regardless of what their financial situation is, antiques that will fit their budget as well as their decorative needs. And due to the large amount of sources available to me, we are able to generally locate pieces for people and not only save them a few dollars, but get them the finest quality that their money can buy.
Gotcha. Okay. Gary, how long have you been in this business?
This is my 36th year. Started in New York City working at Hyde Park Antiques many years ago, and then had my own business in Connecticut for many years, and I retired 5 years ago, and then decided to start back up a year ago, and here we go, and we're offering really fine conservation and restoration services as well as our sourcing services, and we're a full-service antique restoration and conservation shop and sales shop.
Can you tell us briefly about some of the conservation work that you do with Leon Vanderbilt Antiques at your shop?
Well, currently we are working on several projects for a few local concerns here in town that have some fine furniture, and the processes vary all depending on the piece and the methods required to work on them. So it's really a little too entailed to get into right now.
There's some certain techniques that you utilize at Leon Vanderbilt Antiques that are pretty unique, and not a lot of other people are able to do that kind of thing.
Right. We specialize in French polishing. I'm also an expert in working with Japan colors, which are the colors that are based in, for example, on a chinoiserie screen. We're able to repair coromandel, which most places here probably don't locally do, and we do fine inlay work and traditional cabinetry. So when we repair a drawer, if we have to repair the dovetails on it, we do it all by hand.
Great. Okay. Well, let's head on in and take a look at some of these beautiful antiques that you have helped these homeowners find.
Thanks.
Okay, Gary, tell us about this piece.
This is a English Hepplewhite chest on chest made around 1790, and the reason the client wanted to choose a piece like this because they wanted to keep an openness to the house, so they wouldn't need multiple chests of drawers in the bedroom. And as you can see, it's a great storage piece. Unfortunately, this piece had severe water damage done to it, some buckling of veneers. It is a beautiful mahogany veneer with boxwood and rosewood inlays, and we had to make all those necessary repairs along with some minor structural repairs. Also, the drawer runners needed to be worked properly because obviously there's a lot of furniture, a lot of clothing in this piece of furniture, and as you can see, everything works really easily, and the client is really pleased with this. And also, what was really important about this was we washed this piece down with denatured alcohol as not to damage and remove the original patina on the piece and change the color. If this piece were to be stripped, the color would have been changed. This is an early, warm, mellow look to a piece, and you don't want to lose that. It's really important.
Gotcha. Okay, great. There's a couple other pieces here in the room as well, right?
Yeah, there's we found this little Sheraton bachelor's chest that had beautiful inlay on it of shells on the lower skirt, and the client chose to use this as a bedside piece, and it really worked fabulously. And it's very unusual because it is a little bow front, and it does have a very nice brush slide. So it really complements the larger piece here, because if you notice the larger piece, the chest on chest has beautiful French feet on it, and so does the little chest. It has beautiful splayed French feet as well.
Okay, great. Okay, Gary, what's the significance of this table here?
This is a very rare find. It is an English Regency specimen table. And if you get a good look at the top, you will see that this top is all inlaid with various different types of marble. They very rarely come up in the public arena. I've seen very few of them. And this one was in excellent condition. All we needed to do was clean the finish on the base, on the four splay legs and the turned shaft. And it worked perfectly for this client and to suit their needs. And I was fortunate when I saw this piece that I brought this to the client attention, and they really were interested in the table from the beginning. So I went out and purchased it for them.
And how old do you think this is?
This is about 1805, English Regency.
Gotcha. Okay. You mentioned that there was another piece in here.
That's an American fireplace fender with a padded leather top. They kind of wanted one to give it a more cozier country feel, and that was made around 1850 to 1860, and it's all solid brass.
I can imagine the family huddled around that fire at night.
It's a pretty cool thing, and what it also affects is what they were looking for is to be able to see the fire when they're sitting away from it and not sitting and utilizing the actual bench itself, because you can actually sit there and use it.
Right, that makes sense. Anything else in this room you'd like to mention?
No, I'd like to take you downstairs and show you a few pieces down there.
Terrific. Let's head on down. Okay, Gary, tell us about these items here in the foyer area.
Well, the primary goal in the foyer and of the house is that this is a federal home, and they wanted to keep things as period as possible. Also, this is a very narrow hallway, so we needed to find something that was also narrow and fit the need of a period entry hall. And what you have here is a Philadelphia Empire pier table with King of Prussia marble on it, and it's got beautifully executed carvings and cuffs on the lower columns, as well as cuffs above the beautiful hairy paw feet. On top of the pier table are a pair of neoclassical candlesticks, which are also of the period, and on the wall is a period American girandole mirror, which is in its original form. And it really is a nice complement to the hallway. It's the first thing guests see when they come into the home.
And Gary, you help these homeowners furnish the home with these antiques. How did you help, or how did you determine which piece would go where and so forth?
Well, by talking to the homeowner and understanding their desires, their taste, and what their ultimate goal for the spaces were, we could narrow down what they needed, and then I could propose things to them as I searched for items, and either they would say nay or yay, and we'd keep looking. Sometimes they say no because of the price, or sometimes they say no because of the style. This particular client I was very lucky with because we communicated really well with each other, so generally when I brought them a piece, they pretty much said yes. On certain pieces, they had a choice of 2 or 3 items, and they always picked one out of the 2 or 3 items. So I was very fortunate to have a good client to work with.
One of the things that strikes me about the table here is I wonder how they fabricated that stone way back when.
Well, it was all done by hand. They had men that had pedal grinders, and they had saws that were operated by manpower, and it took a long time to cut it.
No kidding. Wow. What else have we got to see here in the foyer area?
We have a really nice pair of Boston etched glass globe sconces that we just installed a week or so ago. We haven't put the candles in them yet, but we thought they added a really nice soft touch. So when the main light in the foyer isn't on and the candles are burning, it's just a very warming, inviting effect to the room.
Great. Okay. Well, we've got 2 more rooms to take a look at, so let's head on in the first one. Okay, Gary, what are we looking at here?
We're in the dining room, and as we moved along in the dining room, we have a traditional sideboard in the room and a dining table, but we were missing one other side table, and we were looking for something that had some interest. And I felt a painted piece would work really well, and the clients weren't so sure. I found this table in Ohio, and it was kind of in bad condition because it is a period English Regency painted console table. And I bought it and brought it into the house, and they absolutely loved it. And it's brass inlaid on the top. It's got brass inlay on the skirt. And then it also has ormolu mounting on it, and the legs are also gilt and with gilt lining and other painted areas of gold as well. And I just thought it added a really nice feel to the room. It brought an air of elegance to the room that otherwise is a lot more traditional.
Very good. What else are we looking at here in the room?
We have these terracotta Italian urns that were kind of really a rare find. That find 2 pair that are initially intact and in excellent condition, and they're about 150 years old. So, and terracotta is very brittle; it can break. And to have been transported here and to be in excellent condition like this was a really nice compliment to the dining room.
Sometimes you can see items that look old, but they are not. They're made to look like antique. How do you know that a antique is authentic?
They're all depending on the medium that you're looking at. If it's wood, you can generally tell the age by the type of wood that was used. There are regional areas that use specific kinds of wood, and I use a smell test generally. I can open a chest of drawers and I can smell it and I can tell. Aside from construction techniques and certain age to the wood, which only Mother Nature can provide.
Gotcha. Okay. What else did you provide here in this room?
We have this really nice dining table. This is a English Regency dining table made of really wonderful Honduran mahogany, and we were able to restore this table and maintain this wonderful honey mahogany hue to it, which I really love this color. And the table has been completely French polished, and it was the right scale and size for the room, and it's not a demonstrative table at all. And so we were really fortunate to find this, and I found this in Connecticut for the clients. And on the table also are a pair of Greek Revival candelabra. They're in a neoclassical form, and they were a recent addition to the house, and I just think it helps finish off the room really nicely around the table. And then lastly, we have the sideboard that I think we want to move over to it a little closer so I can show it to you.
Yeah, let's do that.
And lastly, we have an American Hepplewhite sideboard. It's a Boston model made around 1805. It could have been made just prior to the turn of the century. But some of the lovely things about it are it has this wonderful, rich, veneered facings on the drawers and the doors. It has beautiful boxwood string inlay. The two top center drawers have a different color mahogany, and it is surrounded by a beautiful check inlay. And as well on the bottle drawers, it has the check inlay as well. And it also has an ebony and boxwood banding around it. It's just really a very nice, clean line American piece. And it also, the size is not too large, because again, we had a scale situation for the room. And this was probably my happiest moment to get this piece for them, because a piece of this nature, I bought this in Boston. If I were to have bought it here, it probably would have made it a little prohibitive for the client.
And all the drawers and everything are functioning. Can you maybe pull out one of the drawers for us?
Absolutely. Actually, that is really one center drawer, and obviously the client is storing their silver in it where it should be.
How do the can you pull out one of the side doors? Those are interesting.
Sure.
Or drawers, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, these are kerfed doors, which means they are like a demi-lune shape, and they're solid core breadboard doors that are veneered on the outside, and the secondary wood is poplar. And that's fairly traditional on a New England piece.
It's interesting to have that radius. I'm sure that was very challenging for them to create it way back when.
And it's also challenging for us to repair them when they're cracked. And that's a very common thing, is that when you veneer over wood, over time it does tend to crack, because the veneer is going in a different direction from the wood. And on this piece, we were fortunate to only have some minor cracking, which hopefully, if I did my job well, won't happen for a long, long time.
Can you pull out the top drawer also?
Yeah, and also these drawers are also lined with something called Pacific cloth. So when clients use them to store their silver, they just lay a silver blanket over them, and it helps protect their silver. But again, you can see the angle of this drawer. This is one solid board that was shaped. You know, today you'd never find a piece made like this, because I wouldn't waste all that wood, because you start off with a piece that's 12 inches wide to make that radius, and it's not cost effective, you know, and that's some of the fine things. Plus the really fine workmanship on the side of the drawer, the dovetailing, and the construction technique is excellent on this piece.
Great. Okay, we got one more room to go. Okay, Gary, what are we looking at here?
Well, we're in the living room, and one of the functions of the living room was to keep it open and airy, yet have the functional pieces to balance the room. And I was very fortunate to find this table in Connecticut. A dealer friend of mine had brought it to my attention, and I purchased it from him. And this is an American New York Duncan Phyfe breakfast table. It's an exceptional table with gilt carving on ebonized animal feet. It's got beautiful turnings, 4 turnings as support, and this example is readily available in any book on good Duncan Phyfe furniture.
Who was Duncan Phyfe, and why is that significant?
Duncan Phyfe was a preeminent Federalist cabinet maker in New York City, and became very well known for making fashionable furniture in the early 1800s.
And how would someone know that this is a Duncan Phyfe piece?
He had very unique style techniques. For example, the feet on this piece were elongated legs so you could show off the carving. They gilt the carving on this particular piece to enhance it. And the style of carving on the supports of the table indicate that this is workmanship from his workshop. Also, the dovetailing techniques and the construction techniques underneath the table and in the drawers are very much akin to his furniture.
Do the pieces that you sell at Leon Vanderbilt Antiques come with any kind of authenticity paperwork or documentation?
Some pieces do, if I'm fortunate enough. On pieces like this, I do have documentation. On others, they have to rely on my expertise and my education. And the last thing I want to do is sell somebody something that isn't what it's supposed to be, because people buy furniture because they like it and it fits their budget. There's no reason to give somebody a story about something if it isn't true.
Okay, Gary, what are we looking at here?
This was, again, another unusual find because we had a limited space here on this wall between the two windows and a very shallow area to walk through. So I needed to find a piece that was shallow, and I was fortunate enough to find this Boston card table with a beautiful lyre-based support, and it really and the softness of the shape to it, which is known as it's a D-shaped card table, and it really worked out wonderfully for the client.
Are all of these items functional, or is it like living in a museum when you buy pieces from Leon Vanderbilt Antiques?
Everything is functional. Everything should be used and should be enjoyed.
Great. Okay. And then we've got just a couple of other pieces to talk about too.
A very nice federal mirror on the wall here, and then on top of the chest of drawers over here, we have a wonderful Empire centerpiece, which is made of marble and gilt bronze. It is French from about 1825.
How did you I guess come to recognize what pieces were needed? Did you walk through the house and kind of take an inventory and say, okay, we need something here, and so on?
As I said earlier, when you get to know a client, you sit down, you discuss what their needs are, and then it's a catharsis when you get comfortable with the client and the client is comfortable for you. You can make suggestions. Sometimes they take your suggestions and sometimes they don't. And this particular client took a lot of my suggestions, and I was very fortunate to be able to place some very fine things in this home. And we have a great relationship because they've enjoyed the purchases as much as I've enjoyed finding them and delivering them.
Well, one of the things of anyone who's ever gone antique shopping will run through their mind is, where am I going to put this piece? They find something they like, and then they're asking themselves, what am I going to do with it? And was this the case where you would present them with a piece, and then the homeowners had to figure out where it was going to go, or did you say, I've got this piece and it'll look great on the wall that faces south between the two large windows?
Well, I knew they wanted a piece for this particular area, but in certain cases, we took pieces away from other areas to replace them with what we thought were stylistically and a better upgrade for the period, and that worked better for the period of the house. Like the hall table downstairs was a second table, for example, for that area. And so sometimes, people upgrade. I generally don't want to propose something for somebody that they don't have a need for something.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else in the room you'd like to point out?
Well, there are a couple of, there's a very nice Rosewood Regency game table over here with a really great pair of Regency side chairs to go along with it. And it's an absolutely stunning example of the English Regency period. It's all rosewood. It's inlaid beautifully with boxwood. The top is rosewood and satinwood inlay. The legs are inlaid with a fleur-de-lis pattern of boxwood and string inlay. It has its original knobs, its original ivory keylets. It's just really a great example. The biggest problem with this table is it just needed a good cleaning. And I bought this table for the client on Long Island. The chairs, I was fortunate enough, I bought the chairs in Boston. And so things have a way of pulling together.
Yeah, and you can just imagine no televisions. Might have some books and games to pass the time, and so a game table like that, I'm sure, was very popular.
And this was. And if you let me step away here for a second, I'm gonna show you one thing. You can also use this as a backgammon table as well as a chess or checker table. And if you don't want to let people know you're playing games, you could always flip the top over.
Very clever.
You can also see the fineness of the inlay, also the inlay on the edges, and the fine inlay on the top. It's a magnificent piece. And the backgammon inset is all leather, which is really kind of cool.
Okay, Gary, tell us about this final piece.
This final piece is we wanted to finish balancing off the room on either side of the sofa, and you have the Duncan 5 table on the other side. I was looking for something soft and small, and I was fortunate enough to come across this very diminutive Meeks drum table, and the client fell in love with it right away. We did some minor work to it. It even has a small drawer, and it has a wonderful vassal form base to it. So it kind of changed up the design a little, and it is a little later than some of the other things in the room. This table's about 1840, 1845. But again, it did have a little bit of a pedigree, which kind of enhanced the owner besides the shape and the stylization of the piece. So it really worked well in the room.
Well, Gary, this has been a very, very interesting tour of this beautiful South of Broad home here in downtown Charleston, and want to thank you for allowing us access into this home. And can you tell everyone how they can get in touch with Leon Vanderbilt Antiques?
Absolutely, and I also want to thank, first of all, the clients for allowing us in. And they can reach me at 1437 King Street. Our phone number is 577-0520, or at our website at leonvanderbiltantiques.com.
Okay, great. Well, we've been talking with Gary Leon with Leon Vanderbilt Antiques. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Tim.